Okay, this is day 1 of 30 of me talking at a camera to explain what I'm doing to work on my AI startup. So, our pitch is that we take 40-hour tasks and turn them into 4 minutes for go-to-market teams that are selling to the enterprise. We're starting by focusing on all of the different bits of assets that these our customers have to make for their prospects, and that goes for things like case studies, product overviews, data sheets, competitive analysis. And the way that we enable this is through a set of AI agents that can be strung together to accomplish all of these different tasks. And we had a meandering way of getting here, but this is sort of how the project that we're working on. I may go into some of the other ideas that we've explored on the path in another video. But one of the things I want to talk about today specifically is the things that we've learned sort of along the way. And one of the big ones, and I'll use the sort of different 3 phases that we've gone through so far to help us stay on track here, is that there was an inkling of an idea that we could stitch together a bunch of different tools and then we could get to the output that we were looking for. And that's what we did essentially. We had a bunch of different tools. One would scrape stuff from the internet, another would write some marketing copy, another would then turn that copy as well as a screenshot that we had scraped into an output, and then we would review and refine this. And this sort of loop here is similar to what our end product will be, but with very little effort we were able to go to something that proved that can this idea work very quickly. And a benefit of having that was that it gave us a lot of confidence early on, and with very little input we were able to get something that at least proved to us that with some refinement we could get there. The second phase here was that we had to test this with a real customer, and sort of went into our networks and found a couple of people who were interested in what we were talking about. But there's a huge difference between having something that looks very cool in a simple prototype or demo and having something that our customers can take to their prospects. So what we had to do next was set up a slightly more manual process that, instead of automating this whole process end to end, it was maybe using AI and our agents to do 80% of the work, but it still required 20% of a human, essentially me, in the loop to make sure that the final output was ready and sort of good to go. And our goal is to try and shift this over time. We'll go from 80 to 85% to 90, and our end vision is to have this maybe 99% automated, and then 1% still have our end customers and users just sign off on the finished product. And this is what we're sort of working towards. And what this showed us is that if we can nail that last 20% here, then we've really got something. So our first phase was, is this even possible? Our second phase was, if this is possible, would someone be willing to pay us? And now what we're working on next, phase 3, is how do we productionize this? How do we make sure that we are confident in the things that we're producing? How do we make sure that the end output is meeting our customers' needs? And how do we make sure that this process is going to be stable and reliable when people are using this on their own and without us in the loop? Now that's a lot. That's actually where the magic comes in. That's the process of building the product. So in order for us to sort of hit the goals that we've got here, we actually had to take a couple steps back, and we did a few things that were inspired by some of the real thought leaders in AI, people who have worked on GitHub Copilot as an example. And one of the things that they're really big on is making sure that you're confident in the AI system that you're creating. And the way that they often do that is by really focusing on evals, which is evaluating if the AI agent or AI model is doing the thing that you expect it to do. And the way that they often do that is through this really unsexy work called error analysis. So while we were able to really string together a couple simple concepts at the top here, just by winging it essentially, when it came to how do we productionize this, we had to really know why things were happening the way that they are. And even if we know why, we need to know how we can improve things in a systematic way. So this requires us from just winging it to testing things against one another, and then picking a winner, and then testing again, and then picking a winner, and then testing again, and then picking a winner. Now this requires a really good process to really understand what did we change, how did we change it, and what was the impact. Now this is something that we've nailed, so we've got a process to help us do this, and that's really good. So we know if we change this thing, this is how we can see the impact of that. Now the other side of this is actually building in an automated workflow. So this is where we are going from just putting different building blocks together and then having things run sort of in separate silos to actually having something that's interconnected across a process. So instead of having to manually run each of these different steps that we saw up here, we're stitching them together. And the benefits of stitching them together is one of the real valuable things of an agentic process that we're building, is that we can build in loops and we can build in conditions. And these two characteristics of our framework, of the frameworks that we're using, are going to help us to really increase the quality of the outputs, and then also have something that is super flexible and can be adapted to any different sort of scenario, even things that we've not seen before. And in order for us to build out a workflow, which is what we started doing initially, honestly, is that we're going to use frameworks to help us do some of this. And this will allow us to move much more quickly by focusing on the core logic instead of the sort of admin or pain of just managing the flow of information. We can focus on what that information is, and then we can get the inputs and outputs to the level of quality that we want and direct them into the right place, and not have to worry about how do we actually pass this thing into this other step or pass something else into a different place. So all of this coming together means that within a few weeks we've gone from just a super simple idea, and there's my little light bulb here, to a proof of concept, and now we're working towards a product, and this is where we're focused now. It's been a super interesting journey so far. We've still got a long way to go, and tomorrow I'll be talking through a few more concepts on the things that we're working on that will go into a bit more detail in the product itself. But I'm mainly keeping this as a personal log, personal journal of the things that I'm learning as we go through the process. This was an introduction to what we're actually doing, and I look forward to doing a few more of these.